Welcome to the final episode of Series 88, everyone. This month we had returning guest Craig Campbell to learn about the game that he is designing called Cosmic Corsairs, a space fantasy game about using the power of the cosmos to fight the oppressive Triarchy. In today's episode, we get to the discussion for the series. But before we get to that, we do have some calls to action coming up after the show. Here's what to expect.
Join us here after the show to learn about our next Undying Bonds stream planned for this coming Wednesday, as well as our Patreon, how to leave a review for the show, and our patron thank yous as usual.
With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone.
Welcome back to our discussion episodes. Last time we finished our session 0 for our Cosmic Corsairs characters. This episode, we are going to discuss the character creation process. We are excited to welcome back my new best friend, Craig Campbell from Nerdburger Games. Do you want to reintroduce yourself again for everyone at home? And please tell us about your character.
I would love to do that, bestie. I'm Craig Campbell. I own Nerdburger Games. I've designed a whole bunch of games. Some of them even got nominated for awards. And the character that I made for Cosmic Corsairs is Plekchik. He's an Ikrax, which is an insect person who had a background in being an activist through multiple different governments over time. So he's up in years. He's older. And finally has had just about enough of trying to do things the way he has been doing. And I imagine now, even kind of thinking about it more, he probably said or did some things that tick some people off, and that's forced him into the fringes where he had to leave his home, where he was doing all of this organizing and activist work, and has ventured out into the aether, into aether space, into the solar system. It is trying to do what he can to stop the Triarchy from doing all the terrible things that they do, and has taken a different bent in his life because of it. He's no longer quite so satisfied to just like try to organize and move, and lobby and get change, where he's going to go out and crack a few skulls now.
Mm-hmm.
And we love that for him.
Yeah.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, so I made Alianza Torin, she, her pronouns, who is a Skrell and an Orin. I believe her mother was a Skrell and her father was an Orin. And she grew up kind of on the, the edge of poor, lower middle class sort of family. Nothing really that stood out about her life. There a little bit of privilege in the area that she grew up with, the Triarchy, but she had started kind of an underground pirate radio-esque show about like transgressive art and creativity and all that sort of stuff. And that didn't sit well with the Triarchy when they discovered it. And they had to go and make things personal and shut that show down. Which basically radicalized Alianza to join the resistance. So she joined and became an Enigma class of Cosmic, and is out there trying to change the culture and the get more people on the side of the resistance in order to stop the evils of the Triarchy.
Love it.
Amelia, how about your character?
My character is Parasala Lophos, so a Skrell. They are this sort of anarchist punk idealist youth who really, they're very certain that they know how things should be done despite never having experienced much of anything at all. So they're hopeful, idealistic, passionate, and incredibly obnoxious. Got a mohawk of pink feathers, a jacket that has tons of pockets that I can pull whatever I need out of it. Really just here because, I've read all the important works and I know how things should go. And I just don't understand why everyone doesn't just do what needs to be done to fix things.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into a segment that we are calling D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
So in this segment, we talk to our guests about their thoughts on the character creation process and just, the system in general, character creation in general. Honestly, whatever I decide to ask, because we write questions and then I go off script a lot. Because I just get really excited. But
nobody told me this.
By the time we get to the discussion portion of the episode, the Adderall has largely worn off, and here we are. This is the first time you've been on for a full series, though, so we do get to ask you our favorite generic RPG podcasting question. How did you get into RPGs? What led you to this? How did it come to this, Craig? Tell us.
I talked quite a bit actually back in that first episode about the process of going through a whole bunch of stuff. But let's get specific on a couple of things, right? I came very close to playing Dungeons and Dragons in high school. I had a friend in my class named Joe who I was over at his house one time and he was like, "Hey, check this out." And he had I don't know for sure which one it was, but like a box set, like one of those.
One of those colored boxes.
And this is in like the late 80s. And he kind of described what the game is about. It had the dice, like one of each of the polyhedrals in it. And I was like, okay, that sure, like someday we'll. And then it never happened. So I grazed role playing games, and then several years later in college, my first year at college, got to be friends with a number of people in the dorms where I was staying. And right toward the end of the spring semester of my first year, right before I was going to go home for the summer. My friend Brian said, "Hey, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons? Because I think you would really enjoy it." And I said, "I've heard of it. I have never played." So he ran a game for me and two other people on the floor. And I think there was ultimately he was really working. He wanted to make sure to get me into it because he specifically chose to run Ravenloft knowing that I was a horror fan. So I played a single game session of Ravenloft. We didn't finish the story, like we just played and then all of a sudden it was the summer. And so that SOB sent me off being really intrigued by this game and now going back to small town Wisconsin where I had nobody to play with. And so I bought the books on a trip to the big city of Green Bay. And then went home and just absorbed the books like all summer, just read and imagined and things. And then when we got back to my sophomore year at college, we started playing more. And then I played a lot during college. A lot. If we weren't, if we weren't at class or getting food or doing like some planned activity in the dorms or whatever, we were gaming. There was a lot. And, and then just, over the years that just kind of morphed into playing other games, falling in with different groups, got into World of Darkness, the original run of World of Darkness games, played a lot of Dark Ages, Vampire. I kind of discovered Deadlands, which is I love for a number of reasons. From there. And then, and I mentioned, there came a point where I just kind of got a chance to do a little freelance here and there, mostly being on the periphery of some people who were kind of already doing like organized play group leagues and things like that. And it snowballed and snowballed and snowballed until there was a point where I was regularly freelancing for D&D during 4th edition. And then eventually that rolled into me designing a game of my own. And here I am 9 years after publishing my first game, getting this thing going. with a Kickstarter here this in October and part of November, kind of targeting next year, which is the 10-year anniversary of the company, of like premiering this new thing. So it's been a heck of a ride. Like like looking back on it, it's like there's so many things that had to happen in a very specific order, and inspirations and things, and meeting people who gave me ideas that morphed into a thing that I did that became something. And like, where would I have been if one of those things hadn't fallen in that line of dominoes?
Right.
If like some other slightly different thing had happened. But I'm happy that they happened the way they happened. And I think I would like to think that there are a bunch of RPG enthusiasts out there who are also happy that those things happened the way they happened, because they found some enjoyment in one of my games. So, hooray!
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And now hopefully your games get to start someone else on that trajectory now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. Like
the cycle is never ending.
I've said that's plenty of people, like everybody, if you make a game, it's very possible that it's going to be somebody's first game.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's wild.
Games are good.
What is your favorite character creation mechanic that you like to see in any given system?
I know we're coming with the hard-hitting journalism.
Well, I mentioned Deadlands, the original Deadlands, and for those people who don't know it, if you've played Savage Worlds or the Deadlands, Savage Worlds, Deadlands, Savage Worlds, and it's fast, furious, and fun, right? It's a streamlined kind of a quicker kind of system. The original Deadlands is where that came from. The original Deadlands was much more robust. There was more dice. More traits, more things to keep track of. Like it was just a bigger system. But the thing that I really, really loved about Deadlands is how it embraced playing cards as part of this Western themed game, where it used it in the game mechanics in a number of different ways, but it also used playing cards in character creation. You drew cards from a deck, and the cards that you drew determined your starting, like your 10 attributes that you started with, and the suit versus and the if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I created a character in that particular game, but you had 52 jokers you didn't use. You redrew if you got a joker, but so you had like 52 different possible things that you could have gotten, and that kind of that could be like, you could get lucky and draw really well, just like with game systems where you roll dice to determine traits and attributes and stuff. So like there were times that I created characters, or I had other players create characters that like they just drew horribly, and they had characters that really struggled, but they were still fun. And then every now and then a character that was just like, wow, you drew a lot. You like everything is like a jacking up. And they were these powerhouse characters. It was a fun system to do just because it was so thematic.
Yeah.
And it's not terribly different from the idea of rolling dice to determine some stats, but because of how thematic it was, and it utilized the playing cards, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It is interesting that playing cards are so synonymous with that Western genre as well. Like, how many Westerns have you seen that don't have a scene of people playing poker or something in a saloon, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I honestly love... there's definitely like a place for being able to like make your choices and get your character exactly the way you want, but like Ryan and I are people that really do enjoy sort of a random character generation and like the very kind of wild combinations and the way it sort of forces you to broaden your horizons of things that you might play too, because sometimes that randomness brings you things that you're like, I never would have chosen this for myself. Or, I do have to play a character that's, in fact, actually not very good at things. And the way that kind of changes the role-playing experience once you go into it, too, is the first time that you get to really do that, I think, is a really exciting thing. Like, it's freeing and, like, it just, like a little tingle in my spine when it's like, ooh, let's see what happens.
One of the things I love the most about playing a character that doesn't have terribly good attributes is when you get that big roll that big success,
the payoffs
it feels so much better. It feels like it's like, oh my God, I have terrible scores and I pulled this off. And when it happens, it's just the right moment when it's like when it was absolutely needed. There's something to be said for like you're playing a character with a lot of really good scores, and you just kind of, with certain things at least, you tend to be successful a lot, and that's good, and like it's fun, and the group relies on you because it's like, oh, when in doubt, send in Ryan's character because he's going to tear it up. But when you've got that character that's not so great, it's so satisfying.
I think it also creates a lot of story opportunities too when you're not great at things, because it's like, when you can succeed at everything over and over and over again, right? Like it does feel good. You still get that hit of dopamine of like, yeah, I did it. But the story outcomes of like, no, that went badly for you. And now the story is often like this whole entire new direction because you have to make up for that. It's so much fun sometimes. I think that's really, we've talked a lot about like disadvantages for characters, and character creation is one of my favorite things because I think those flaws and when things go wrong is where so much of the story happens. So yeah, like that. The randomness just like makes my heart happy.
Absolutely.
So much. We like to talk about character sheets and layout and stuff like that on this show because character sheets, I think, are really kind of the first interaction that a lot of people have with a game, especially for players. You're often not coming in having read the book cover to cover. So, what are the kinds of things that you were thinking about or that were important to you in making the character sheets for this game? And, what's something that you look for in general when you're looking at a character sheet?
I often find myself relating to a character sheet in terms of what can I fit on it reasonably that will fit on there, and how will that impact how I'm going to have to play the game? Because if you're playing like a spellcaster at a relatively high level in a game that has a lot of spells and stuff, like if you can't describe all of the spells on your character sheet and you're just going to list them, that means you're going to be in the book a lot. You're going to be flipping pages. You're going to need to book. You might want to put little sticky tabs in your book or have bookmarks on your PDF, a copy of the game or whatever. And it influences how you're going to interact with the media that you're touching when you're telling the stories. So one of the things I wanted to do with Cosmic Corsairs was make it so that it's possible to, at least to some extent, and it kind of depends on how you build your character, but it's relatively possible that you could create a character and have all of your information that you need on the character sheet. So that necessitated me kind of going to 2 pages. And if I had kept it at 1 page, you could have fit like all the channeling, names of the channelings, named of the species talents, the novas, but you wouldn't have the space to actually write out what they do. Yeah. But the way I write the channelings and the novas and so forth is, they're not super detailed. There's some that are longer, but a lot of them are just like a sentence or 2 that tells you what you can do. So if you go to 2 character sheets, and in the case of Cosmic Corsairs, like the second character sheet it has space for channelings, novas, and your gear, which are going to be like the things that take up a lot of space. You're going to have a lot of information to put in there. And then the first sheet covers all the other stuff. So there's a lot going on in the first sheet. Hopefully it's, fairly well organized. It seems like you find everything you need to find. But I'm giving you a lot of space to write stuff. And also, even whether you're writing it by hand on a piece of paper or whether you're copy pasting information into your PDF character sheet, and keeping in mind that people they have their own version of writing stuff. Like everybody self-abbreviates, like you figure out like the way you can I can convey the information for this ability with some abbreviations that I understand. Yeah. So I don't have to write the whole 3 sentences. I can just say this, And so you can convey all that information. And then that gives you a sense of like, I think, hopefully, it gives people a sense of how the game will play, that you have at your disposal the ability to keep it moving. Yes. To keep as much information as possible on your sheet. And that comes out in some of the choices for how I did different game mechanics and some GM stuff and trying to avoid having there be too much bookkeeping kind of stuff that GM, like kind of streamline some of the bookkeeping stuff so that you can run a combat that's going to snap. It's going to move along. and everything's going to be able to kind of move along. You're not going to be stymied by like, oh, I got to look up this information, or I've got like a 4-page character sheet where I've got everything, and now I've got which was that information on page 3 or page 4? Now I got to go look, and I didn't organize it well. It's not alphabetical or whatever, So that's one of the things I look at for character sheets a lot, is how it informs me how I'm going to interact with the game while it's being played. And one of the things that I've had a number of people tell me about the system with the tracks is that because every time you make a trait check, you're also marking on a track. So you're also, you're getting an immediate effect, and you're marking a checkbox that gives you something down the road. That's working towards something down the road. So every trait check is like giving you multiple things. And I've had a number of players who love the fact that they're always interacting with their character sheet. They feel like the character sheet has a life of its own, because I'm always changing. I'm marking checkboxes. I'm erasing stuff. I'm doing this. And that I think informs the gameplay as well. Kind of gives you a sense of how the game is supposed to play. You're going to be marking these things and erasing them, and you're supposed to. Like, it's a reminder that you've got this thing. I did it as checkboxes rather than just a box for you to write a number in. Because when you're looking at a page full of checkboxes, your brain is going, should I fill one of those in? Like, there's boxes that they want to be checked. Yeah. If I just had a number that you filled in and you just let your number go up and down, that's easier to forget. So
yes, exactly.
Definitely. I appreciated too that they're kind of like in a sort of central spot on the sheet too, that like so they're easily available, but they're not necessarily just like at the top of the sheet where you put your name and species and all of that kind of stuff, which is information that is important when you're creating your character, but like it isn't something that you're going to reference really frequently, right? You're not going to go back and be like, what was my character's name? All that often, right? You're going to hopefully know that. And so like having it down a little bit, next to your talents and your, affinity channelings and things like that is like in a spot near information that you're going to be referencing more frequently, which I liked. And I also think it, the fact that you left room to write all of those things out along with the check boxes was like, okay, I knew because there were check boxes, like you're going to be interacting with the sheet a lot. So I want to make sure that like the info in there is something that you also want to interact with. So you're not forcing people to be checking boxes on a sheet and also going back to the book. That I think it's very thoughtful to say, if I have you constantly doing things on your sheet, I should make sure that all the other stuff you need is also on the sheet so that I'm not slowing down to go back and forth. Yeah. I think that's
absolutely.
That's the super kind of thoughtful design stuff that I think, when you've been playing a lot of different games or you've been playing for a long time, those are the things that you're like, you get annoyed when they're not there, but you don't always think about like, oh, I should do that. And so I'm always really intrigued by people who put in that kind of thought. And like the level of like intensity that goes into thinking through all of those things too.
Yeah. And, and a 2-page character sheet works nicely on, on a computer screen or on a tablet turned sideways where you can see everything all at once.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was something that came out of, that's where Good Strong Hands did it as a 2-page sheet to begin with, because that game was designed with the idea of let's make this so that it's very easy to play online.
Absolutely.
And so like the 2-page character sheet like works nicely if you're at a computer and you've got like, okay, I've got like a lot of people have like multiple monitors. So like we'll have a monitor where I can put my character sheet. We'll have a monitor over here that's got my little Zoom windows or whatever. And so,
yeah. I'm kind of all for anything that limits having to go back and forth to the book really frequently, because I do think that slows down and really, interferes with immersion and just like general vibes, honestly. And it often forces people to have like multiple copies of the book, which can be a barrier to entry for a lot of people. Like I think in gaming, especially people who are really into gaming, are like, people need to play more games, and like, why is everybody only playing D&D? And it's like, well, because you've got to get the books and you've got to get the like there is a barrier to entry. And so I think anything that lowers that too, like being able to have everything on your sheet in front of you and not requiring everyone in the group to have a copy of the book to go back to every time you want to use an ability in the game, really can make a big difference in whether your game gets played.
Yeah. And when I started, there were no PDFs. Like if you wanted to know how the game was played, you had a book at the table.
Yeah.
That has changed. That's not how games are distributed. That's not how a lot of games are played. It's not how people approach it anymore. You can certainly play games where everybody or nearly everybody has a book at the table. You're playing physically,
Right.
You're at the table.
And as obviously as the person like making the book, you're like, I'd love for everybody to buy a copy of my book. That sounds great. But, it's like at the cost of getting them to play at all, that's not.
Yeah. If you can make it
Mhm.
more electronic friendly, and so having something that you can format easily onto a computer screen or on a tablet, if you're going to carry your gaming paraphernalia on your tablet, and you're not going to necessarily be, sitting with copies of the book or, around the table.
Right.
I've even changed my mindset on that. When I talk to people about buying the game and stuff, I talk about the idea of like, well, the GM's going to want their copy of the book because they're probably going to reference things quite a bit. And then you have one for the table. I don't think about it as like every player has a game book anymore. But if you've got the GM has a copy of the game and everybody else has one for the table, then you're good to go. And then people have copies for PDF so they can do character advancement outside of the game or whatever. Because that's just the world we live in with, how the media functions now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah. And more and more people, especially post-COVID too, like more and more people playing online rather than in person too, really kind of necessitates having, electronic copies of things too, I think, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do appreciate the flow of this character sheet, like for the steps of character creation.
Yes.
Very well matched with the flow of the sheet, the natural flow of the sheet. So I wasn't like jumping around on the sheet between steps 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It was all just like in a nice leisurely meandering through the character sheet instead of, the chaos that some games bring to their character sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we think character creation for Cosmic Corsairs stacks up to other systems that we've played or created characters for?
I think it's great. I think it does really, really well. I think it's the best. Oh, this is for you two to talk about. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I always tell our guests, I was like, this is the part where we tell you how great your game is. No, I mentioned it when we were doing our character creation that I think, it has that sort of design, feeling that Grant and Chris have talked about with like Spire and Heart and things of like having a few options that are all really good rather than, my arch nemesis, all Palladium games that are just here. We vomited choices at you. Pick something. Does it matter? It might matter, but you don't know that. This one, it felt like every choice I was making was significant and really did lead me to where my character ended up. So, I think that's important is like, if you're having people make choices, make sure those choices matter. But then also like the things that you gave me to choose from were interesting, evocative things that all kind of led me in different directions, but were each interesting in their own right.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that the choices were very meaty in every aspect, and like the whole point of like coming up with your concept ahead of time, like most games when they have you do that, it feels like, well, I don't know anything about the game or the system yet, so how do I choose? But then you had some really succinct examples there that I was able to like, I can take stuff from these examples and kind of pick and choose and like add my own spin to it, and now I've got a character background that informed everything about my character that I had not much of an idea of like how society worked in the different worlds and all that sort of stuff and all that. But like having that anchor was kind of key for me to really latch into something. And then knowing that I can build off of it myself was really nice.
Yeah, I think the choices that we had and really like the descriptions of things were like the perfect balance of broad but still pointed. because it was like, you know, like I can look at this thing and I can understand, you know, what it does, even though I can't, you know, picture exactly the scenario that I would use it in. But I'm like, when I get to use this thing, you know, like sucking the energy out of someone, making someone really tired. It was like, is this a thing that in a specific context, I'm like, I'm so glad I have that? Yes. But is it so specific that I'm going to love it the one time I get to use it and never use it again? No, because that's like a difficult balance to strike sometimes. Like, this thing is really cool and it's going to be great. If only I can find a time to like do the thing, you know? So it's like, this is specific enough that I can look at my character and be like, having this trait is really funny, but it also says something about my character. And also like, I can't wait to find places to use this.
Yeah.
You know, even though it is such a specific kind of a thing to be like, wow, you are a draining person to talk. Like, oh, I can just incite rage in people. Like, talking to me makes you hate things. Like, amazing. You know, I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I have no idea what we're going to get up to as characters, but like, I'm going to find a way. And the fact that I picked that to be one of the things that I do fairly frequently tells you something about me. You know, it's much more interesting and telling than being like, wow, I have acrobatics. Like, okay, cool. Like, I'm nimble. Great. That tells me like not very much about you. It's like, oh, you're draining to talk to. You make people tired when you interact with them. Like, that's like, you know, it's a very, I keep using that word evocative, but like, I mean, it really is. It tells you something about who that character is. And can be used in enough circumstances to still be fun to pick that too.
A while back, I hit on a phrase that I've been kind of keeping in mind when I think about how I tend to design things, because I've got enough under my belt that I've noticed trends in my own game design. And they're, you know, and it's conscious choices, but I didn't always have, you know, like, I just know that this is the way I want to do it. But the way I approach it is what I have been thinking of as robust minimalism. It's robust in that there's plenty of choices and there's interesting and evocative choices, but they're not over-explained to the point that they get to be too narrow and specific and like prescriptive. Where you can fill in how it's going to work. And then, so that's the minimal, you're minimizing it. So like, I'm going to give you an ability. I'm going to give you 50 abilities and they're all going to be 2 or 3 sentences.
Right.
So you've got a lot of choices, but you can scan through those really quickly. Then the titles of the choices will give you ideas. And then you read a couple of them. You don't have to sit there and be like, do I want to take this particular ability? Well, if I want to even consider it, I have to read a column of text. Which is, and that's also, that just makes the ability, using the ability a lot more difficult and a lot more time intensive, because you're probably having to fulfill specific requirements and you can only do it a certain way. And there's caveats to this, that, and the other thing.
And then like being in the middle of the game and remembering that you've met all of those conditions too. Like, is it raining? Is it a Tuesday? Is it, 4 weeks since the last full moon? All of that kind of stuff. Like, you're not going to remember that while you're playing.
This morning.
Right?
That was one of those. Yeah. And I think it comes out of playing plenty of wizards or spellcasters in general in D&D, and just avoiding certain spells, because it's like, I don't want to deal with the spell that takes a column of information to convey, because that's a lot to keep track of. I'd rather have like, here's the thing that's like, you got the little stat block above that kind of tells you all the who's its and what's its, right? It's like, this is your range and this is your target and your area of effect, and you got components, but that's even a lot. And then you've got a paragraph that describes how it works. I like those. I like abilities like that, because it allows me to fit it on the character sheet. Like with the whole, I was going to say,
those two things really do go well together. It's like this concept of like,
here's a whole bunch of stuff. It gives you a lot of options. It allows you to play the game in a lot of different ways. It allows you to have characters that do a lot of different things, but nothing is so prescriptive that it dictates that this is how you must use this ability. And how you must flavor it. Like, we didn't get into it, but in the description of channelings and novas, I don't get into saying like, well, this channeling looks like this visual effect takes place, and an aura surrounds the target, and so forth and so on. No, you tell me. You tell me what your version of that channeling looks like. When you use an attack channeling that is fire, what color is the fire? Is it a beam? Is it like a gout of flame? Is it, what color is it? How does it spread? I mean, it only hits one target, but there's so much that you can give me that's really cool and evocative. That's how your character specifically channels, the power of the star to create fire.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, that's what I go after.
Well, and I think like when you start to have different species too, like I think, like a bug species doing one thing is going to look very different than like a dinosaur species doing that same thing too. So like leaving that open, I think makes it more interesting and more real to the world too.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that the process of character creation tells us about playing the game? We've talked a little bit about like how you're going to interact with the character sheet and everything, but like this process of character creation, which was very much like, okay, we get to this category, you've got a couple choices to make, this category, a couple choices to make. Like, what does that kind of tell people about what the game feels like?
Oh boy, that's a hard question because I think it's probably fairly personal. I hope that the character creation process gets the point across that you've got all these options, that you've got a lot of things that you can do. It's a lot of different means to an end. Like the end is like, I'm going to create this cool, interesting, well-rounded character that's got some humanity to them that I can identify with, that I can embody. And the character creation process gives you a bunch of different things that help you get to that. And that plays into how you play the game in the same way. Like your characters are going to be doing a number of things that is a means to an end. You're going to, there's a lot of different ways you can, honestly, there's a lot of different ways you can play this game. We talked about this earlier in previous episode where sometimes you just want to be blowing stuff up, and sometimes you want to be like messing around with this or that. Sometimes you want to be building community, growing the resistance. And so I think, I tried to make sure that that on all levels of the game, and that includes character creation as well as like the goals that you undertake and the stories that you tell and the adventures that your characters go on, is that you're getting a variety. There's a lot that you can do. And have everything about the character creation and everything about the mechanics and everything about just the setting and lore of the game and like what types of things you're doing to fight the Triarchy there's variety. There's this wide open, you're in a solar system. There's so much out there. There's so much to going on. I've designed games that are very specific. Like this game does this very specific thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted kind of everything about Cosmic Corsairs to reflect the variety of everything that can happen, because it's also that's going to play into the game line. There's going to be like, you can play this game or that game or another game, and you can mix and match pieces. You can use species from that game in this game. And, there's going to be a lot of ways you can interact with everything with all of this variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I liked was that, like, with the channeling being very succinct ability descriptions and whatnot, like it doesn't have like this is a green fire that you shoot from your eyes and hits a single target from so far away. It's, you get to make up the flavor as you play. And you get to enjoy like that sort of collaborative world building and like mythos building with your own table, which is fantastic for people that enjoy the collaborative world building aspect of games and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's all part of that variety.
Yeah, I think what I got from this was the idea that like it is a game that has like a very specific kind of story to tell, but the way that you tell that story and the way you interact with that story is very, very open. That it's, like you are fighting this big thing, but the way that you choose to do that, the tactics that you choose to use, the people that you do it with, all of that kind of stuff is very open and, kind of able to be worked out as a group. I think I understood that it is a game that is about like doing things and like sort of like continuous forward momentum. I think like having the fact that you're checking off these boxes on these tracks, the fact that it is really easy to kind of use and activate the various abilities that you've got, the fact that those things are broad and applicable to lots of different situations kind of tells you this isn't a game where you're going to be sitting and like spending an entire session doing 2 rounds of combat. Like this is something where like you are moving and progressing the story forward, even if it isn't necessarily like, oh, I'm constantly leveling up and, you know, like, but it is about like being in motion in a lot of ways.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is where you're like, wow, actually you're really wrong and I don't know how you got that.
You totally misinterpreted that, and I'm going to tell you exactly all the different ways you're wrong with footnotes. I would love to hear it. Yeah, I'm sure you would. Suddenly this turns into a really combative
I know, right? One of the questions I'd love to ask, especially designers that we have on the show, is what do you feel is one of the biggest flaws of character creation in this system? And what is your what's your favorite part of character creation in this system?
Oh, the biggest flaws?
I will tell you that a lot of times people on the show are like, the biggest flaw of this is that it isn't a different game. Like that it's, you know, it's only designed to do what it's designed to do.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if the word flaw is the right word, but I will say that one of the shortcomings that's in this game, and it plays into character creation and it plays into other parts of the game as well. But it is done this way for a reason, because of the whole thing we talked about with the game line and, you know, building out and exploring more and more of this, the solar system as you go, in different types of stories that can be told, is that somebody's going to read the intro up front where it describes gives you a quick blurb on each of the planets and talks about each of the species that lives there. And they're going to be like, "Ooh, I want to play that." And that's not in this game. Like that's going to be in another book. Yeah. So I think that, but I had to provide that to, number one, make it a complete solar system that has, like, clearly there's 10 planets and there's all these different species. And it also, you know, it's a tease. It's a teaser to say, like, you know, there'll be other games where you'll be able to do these sorts of things. And I chose the species that I chose for this game for a reason. Because they're the ones that kind of they fill certain roles within what these stories are trying to tell. And there's going to be other games that are going to have other species that are, you know, chosen for a reason. So that maybe is one of the things that's kind of missing from the game, is the inability to play some of the species that are mentioned.
Just be patient.
We'll get there. We'll get there. And my favorite thing about the character creation, honestly, I would say that I'm kind of tickled that, well, I'm going to say 2 things. One, I'm kind of tickled about how, like, there's all sorts of different things that kind of help you to feed into making other decisions. And that was something Ryan talked about. Like, as you made some of these decisions up front, it helped to inform you of things you were doing down the road. And like having anchors that kind of help to inform, like, what species talents or what channelings you might have. And that all sorts of builds together. One of the things I also really like about, one of my favorite things about the character creation and the character sheet for this game and for other games in this, is that I leave a lot of that top of the page shotgun effect off the character sheet. I've experienced a lot of character sheets for different games where you're up at the top of the page and it's like, okay, here's my name, my class, my level, my hair color, my eye color, my height, my weight, my sex or gender, my this, my that, and it's got all this stuff, my clothing, and I mean, like, I've got, it's your appearance and notes is everything else that you want to include about the character, and appearance is like, what does your character appear like? What do they look like? And it's not hair color. Is hair color important to your character? To what? Maybe it is. Maybe you want to point out that you're the only redhead in your entire family, and that's kind of a big thing. Is your character's height notable? if you want that, absolutely point out the fact that they're super high, they're super tall, they're super short for their species. But I kept it as appearance. Like, tell me the things that are important to see when I look at your character. And it may not involve some of those little categories that some character sheets love to just litter the whole top of the page with all this little stuff that you write it all in there, and you talk about it one time when you introduce your character in the first session, and then you never do anything with it again. Whereas I think it's more interesting to say how they dress, and like they have key things that, like, they have favored like heirlooms that they wear that tie back to their family, and putting that in appearance is interesting. Under notes, like talking about specific mannerisms about how they play, that's good reminders for you. Like my character, I established that my character occasionally does these stupid little rhyming couplets because he thinks he's cute and funny when he does that. And so he speaks like, and so just make that note that's like a little thing that they do. I think that I like that about character sheets in general, is like leaving that broad base and being like, tell me what you think is important about the appearance or the manner.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of times it puts stuff up there that, like, once you've made that decision, you also like don't need to ever like reference it again. That you're like, okay, like once I've decided what my character looks like in my head, I know what that is. You know, like I don't need it written down, you know?
I feel like it's good for prompts to help you to think about that sort of thing if you want to keep it in mind, but does it need to be on a character sheet? Why couldn't that just have been a paragraph in the character creation section? Think about what think about your character's height and weight and what they wear, what their hair color and eye color is, if that's important. Just like prompt people to think about that, make a decision. But it doesn't, I don't know that it needs to be on a character sheet. And then let people write it
down if it is notable, because a lot of times it isn't. Right. Yeah, definitely.
See, we need more blood types on character sheets.
Tell me your blood type.
Honestly.
Right. Yeah. Then you need a section in the book about whether each species has different kinds of blood types. Can you, like, is there a universal donor between all species? Is there?
Exactly.
It's magic, Amelia. It's just magic. Blood is blood.
Yeah.
And blood is magic, as we've learned in a lot of other. Yeah.
In all my favorite games, it is.
It sure is.
This is our favorite segment. It's our fan fiction portion where we pretend that we're ever going to play this game. What I want to know, like, what brought these people together in particular, because I can definitely see kind of how this, plays out of, like, Craig's character sort of having to, like, keep us in line and, like, teach us how to do these things. But I'm also curious, like, how did this happen?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the idea of my character, the older, kind of more experienced character, having to keep your two characters in line, could play out. That could happen in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
Maybe we all ended up on a space station or a moon base looking for work, or just kind of keeping out of the Triarchy's crosshairs. And then something that none of us could ignore kind of cropped up, like the Triarchy kind of brought down the hammer, imposed a bunch of restrictions or brought a bunch of soldiers in or something like that, started causing problems, started suppressing people or getting violent or whatever, right? And the two of you individually decided, not on my watch,
right?
And went in and decided, I'm going to do something about this. And whether it was going to go poorly for your character or not, I'll let you decide whether you think your first time standing up, physically to the Triarchy. But one way or the other, my character was like, oh, they're going to get themselves killed. Like, this is going to go really badly. So, he just kind of swoops in, guardian angel, and tries to make sure that he can either help with what you're trying to do or get you out if things look like they're suddenly going south. And then how the two of you react to that is a whole other, like, that would be like the impetus to kick off character interactions and relationships. It's like, does that sit well with you? It could, it might not.
Yeah,
What
I
do
can very
you
much
think?
picture it like in media res, like my character mouthing
Yeah.
off to some authority figure, and your character like, I'm going to grab the back of your collar and be like, nope, like just,
Mhm.
no, like settle down, youngin.
Yeah. So my big question is, were either of you a fan of my show?
I mean, I think like I think probably, right? I feel like my character is very much like, it's like, oh, it's underground, so it's cool, you know.
Mhm.
I feel like my character in their earlier life of activism was so focused on the things that they were doing that they didn't even know your show existed.
Of course.
And then when they found out about it and maybe heard some recordings or whatever, and were like, yeah, that wasn't too bad. And I can see exactly why you are where you are. Like, I totally get what happened, because I have come to understand exactly what we're up against with dealing with censorship and so forth.
Mhm.
So, but he still wouldn't, and also like probably a generational gap between the two group between us. So like anything you talk about as being hip and cool and everything, like it's going to be right over my head.
Yeah. But how do I get it to work on my phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be, I would think there's probably going to be a lot of Flick Chick like misnaming things. Like he's trying to talk about like he calls your show the wrong name.
Oh yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
Or, like the old guy saying like, I saw it on the YouTubes.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I think there's probably a fair bit of that with the because the
I
more
definitely think you
the more I think
found
about it,
this
the more I
show-
think he's a fair bit older. He's late Middle Ages to elderly. To
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that like you found this show by accident and couldn't figure out how to turn it off, and then sort of just like became a fan, like, or you're just like, this is tolerable actually, and it's like playing 24/7 on full volume because you haven't figured out how to.
like the first time you listen to an album, you can't stand it, but your roommate plays it over and over and over, and eventually you kind of get into it.
You're like, all right, maybe
Bop it along here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like the thought that like Amelia, your character being a fan and then the show going south and then me having to kind of jet to this space station to kind of get the heat off of me because I knew I was going to be next.
Mhm.
And then you recognizing me and then us kind of bonding over like, oh, that sucks that happened, etc. And then whatever altercation comes into play and like you've got the like the kind of protector sort of cosmic side of things. I like the thought of you standing up to kind of protect me since I'm relatively weak and I'm just good at talking.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like very much see this too as, it's like I have nothing to do with what you're making, but I'm like, you can't shut us down. And it's like, I have like nothing to do with this, but like, if there's one thing I can do, it's mouth off.
Yeah.
It's
Words are for the
always to my
people.
own detriment. I want to be very clear. I do not have the stats for that mouthing off to go well, but
Yep.
it's not going to stop me from trying.
So Amelia, was your character a fan of Ryan's character to the extent that you fangirl a little bit when meeting him the first time, or meeting her? Sorry, playing a.
Yeah.
Do you fangirl a little bit outwardly, or maybe even just secretly?
I mean, I think it's like I'm definitely trying to cover it because I'm like, like too cool for that. And also I think like whatever you're doing, there's also a part of me in the back of my head that's like, you could have been more hardcore about it. Like, you really should have been, because like you're kind of like shutting down and like, on the run a little bit. And I'm like, no, you should have stuck to your guns. You should have like, I can't believe that you would fold just because they, but like internally I'm
just
like,
because they were going to kill you.
I can't believe that. Yeah. Like, right. Like that's not, you do it for the cause, man.
And I wonder if that conversation like led me to like, you're right. I should be more active in this.
But
I think I
feel
think
like the
I will
two of
take a
us like
stand.
over time will hopefully balance each other out a little bit of like,
Yeah.
okay, like, but also people aren't good. Like if you're coming on like aggressive, full throttle all the time with like no level of like nuance to it either, like you're also not going to get anywhere. You know, like there's ways to like, you know, have some empathy and understanding without capitulating.
Yeah.
And I think my character very much needs to learn that. So like that, hopefully there's some kind of balance there.
I feel like our crew is absolutely at some point going to become a mobile pirate radio station.
Yes.
Oh,
For sure.
yeah.
Of, you know, communicating.
I like that
communicating with, especially with fringe communities, but, you know, perhaps also with moons and so forth. Like maybe not venturing too close enough to get picked up by, too reliably by people on planet. Because that starts to get, you get noticed, you know, a little bit faster with that sort of thing. But maybe, you know, like that might be part of their kind of role in the resistance is like they're gonna get people riled up, and some of those people that get riled up are going to decide, okay, it's time to fight and be part of this.
Yeah,
I really like the community building aspect of this game. That thought of making places more hopeful and bringing that sort of like resistance mentality to a whole group of people and getting people on your side.
Yeah. And I think that's like definitely kind of the balance between your character and mine too, Ryan, is that like you're very much like, you're like, art brings people together and the hopefulness. And I'm like, there's a doctrine and we have to fight the fascists and, you know, like, you know, and balancing that while also being safe, but like doing enough to be doing something, but not enough that we are putting ourselves or other innocent people at risk too.
Exactly. Oh, it's so good.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I want to learn about advancement a bit. So let's go ahead and talk about advancement in our segment that we call Take It Up a Level.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
So this segment, we talk about advancement and growth. The first question is, you know, we've touched on it just like a little bit, but how do characters advance in the system and what happens mechanically when you're, you know, checking all your boxes and everything as you go?
Yeah, mechanically, it's pretty straightforward. At each level, and level advancement is basically left in the hands of the GM to determine when that happens. So it's a question of how quickly they want it to advance. Like, how long do you think the campaign's going to be? How fast? Because there is an upper limit. So, and you know, ideally, probably advancing at key points, like have good, like, you know, like here's a good climactic moment or a big win or something like that, and this is where we advance. And so at each level, you gain 3 character points to spend on skills or species talents or new channelings. And skills and species talents cost 1 character point. Channelings, as we discussed, cost 1 to 3. So it's like a little bit of just fleshing out like additional stuff. And so you can take it in a lot of different directions. You can be like, oh, I'm going to go skill, super skill. I'm going to make sure I've got a lot of skills. So you can do that for a few levels. Or you're going to be like, I want channelings up the wazoo. So I'm going to take all sorts of channelings and make sure I've got all these cool abilities to choose from. And then, so you gain that at each level. And then you also gain one other thing. And it varies from level to level. But basically it revolves as you gain a Nova. For example, we're at 2nd level, you're going to gain a Nova. Next level, you gain +1 to your reroll or Nova bank. Like right now, your banks are at 1, so you can only have 1 reroll or Nova stored. So you can add 1 to reroll or Nova bank. And then at 4th level, you gain a +1 to a trait. And these are all in addition to the character points. And then that series, that progression of those 3 things repeats each level. Except that at 10th level, you get that +1 to a trait, but you also gain an ability called Supernova, which means that you gain a banked Nova at the start of each game session. So even if you haven't earned one, by rolling and filling up your Nova track, you just go ahead and gain one at the beginning of the session because it's 10th level, and now you're going to do all your last big hurrahs and you're going to rock and roll. And we want to make sure that you got to use a Nova every game session. Even if the rolls don't go your way to fill that Nova track.
Yeah.
So that's your big cool thing. Like everybody loves a game where the highest level has like this awesome thing. It's like, it's a goal. Yeah. I want to get to that thing because then I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
you have that thing to work toward.
Yep. And so advancing a character that if we were going to go to second level, it would be 3 character points and pick a Nova.
I do like that a lot. Oh, that's very good. Well, is there anything else that we want to say about this game before we head out for this series? Hopefully the Kickstarter is going good at this point. We are on the final weeks of the Kickstarter at this point of release.
Fingers crossed. We're recording this in advance, so none of us has any idea how the Kickstarter's doing. So I'm putting on my positive face that it's all going very well.
Absolutely.
And if it's not, you have the chance to fix it, dear listeners. Go fix it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's going to be like, fingers crossed, everything goes the way it's supposed to go. There's going to be all sorts of additional stuff coming down the road. There's other games and other little smaller, they could like these little small magazine size supplements that are going to give you little bits and pieces. And so each Kickstarter down the road, I imagine, is going to look a lot like this Kickstarter. So there's going to be like a little package of stuff that comes. That's part of it.
Do you have things specifically that you're like, this, like this is the thing that I want to do next?
I know what the next 3 games are.
Oh, you're like, I've got it all planned out. You're like, I could push go on those Kickstarters today too if I want.
No. No, don't. I'm designing some things. I'll tell you the next one because I've been open about it. I've been talking about it on the Discord. Yeah. The next one is in progress. It's being designed. It's tentatively titled Secret Scions, where you are playing psionic characters, people with mind abilities, and you are working within the government to take it down and weaken it from inside the halls of power. Yeah, so there's
talking about a lot of things that both of us love.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of one of the things I've been having a lot of fun with is in this game you've got channelings, right? In Scion, when you're a Scion, you'll have powers like psychic powers, and getting into all the cool things you can do to manipulate people on a level that isn't just like primarily combat. Because this is, Secret Science is not a game where you can go around assassinating people, right? Like crazy. You can do it occasionally, like it might happen here and there. But it's not going to be the de facto way to go. It's going to be, you're going to go in there and you're going to read this person's mind to figure out what they're up to. And then you're going to do some research to figure out who they're working with. And then you're going to find the link. You're going to find the weak person in the chain. And maybe you're going to go in there and try to implant or change their memory of something to get them to work to get them to do something a certain way to kind of manipulate them. Yeah. And
much subtler.
Yes, and where you travel the aether, and you have and so you have outer space as your realm to explore here. I'm working on something called the Mindscape, which is the aether that fills this solar system, also links the minds and consciousnesses of all the sapient creatures here. And there's this shared realm called Mindscape where you can kind of go in there, and that's going to allow you to meet and talk to people who are very, very far away because you're linking minds through the Mindscape and piggybacking off of other consciousnesses, and you can enter other people's dreams, and there's going to be all sorts of mind bendy stuff.
Yes.
Oh man.
Good.
Yes, please.
So everyone, help fund this Kickstarter so that I can have that one too.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, this has been an absolute delight. Such a pleasure to have you on the show again. And I'm glad that you got to become best friends with Amelia.
Yes.
exciting for both of us.
I think we're pretty good too, Ryan. I think we're pretty good friends now too.
Absolutely. Can you remind everyone where they can find you online, where they can find this game, and what other things you have going on?
Sure. I can be found at Nerdburger Craig on Blue Sky. Nerdburgergames.com is the website. Again, there's a link there to join the Discord if you want to come in and check out the lovely little community of people there. The games are available at the website and also at DriveThruRPG. The Kickstarter is ongoing right now for Cosmic Corsairs. And like the day after this Kickstarter wraps, I will be at a Catacon. The Kickstarter will wrap on right now, again, I don't know for sure how I'm going to time it, but basically the Kickstarter is going to end and then I'm going to drive to the airport on Thursday evening and get on a plane and be at a Catacon for Friday morning.
Very nice.
Oh, that'll be fun. Very cool.
Well, thank you again for sitting down with us, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. Well, this was our final discussion about this, which I always like when we get to do, kind of some design chat with people and, my new best friend, Craig. Really got to kind of dig into the meat of things. I think that we're hitting our stride with some of that stuff. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I do love all the designers that we're getting on the show, and we have a designer lined up for next week as well, with some phenomenal discussion around not only industry biz talk, but discussions around game design and the nitty-gritty details of certain things. It's really good. Can't wait for us to get to that series. But our design series have been really fruitful, it feels like.
Yeah, I think we've been having really good conversations with designers when we get to when we have time to sit down and really kind of sink our teeth into things. I think we're having discussions that they don't always get to have in the sort of broad overarching interview kind of things. So I'm enjoying it. People have been giving us good feedback about it. So hopefully our listeners are enjoying it too. Because we are, and
absolutely.
so are our guests.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Craig was a delight to have on the show. And I'm looking forward to seeing this game come to fruition.
Definitely.
And to see kind of what the future holds for it.
He
said he had at least 3 things.
Yeah, he's got a nice long-term plan laid out. So it'll be cool to see what all comes out of this.
Exactly. But, we are crunched on time ourselves, so we're going to get to the calls to action. And before we let you go for the day, we have a few.
First up, the Kickstarter for Cosmic Corsairs is coming to an end soon and looks like it needs just a little bit more to hit its next stretch goal. So if you like what you've heard this series, we'll have a link in the show notes and you can go right to the campaign.
In other news, our Undying Bonds live stream is planned for this week, Wednesday, the last Wednesday of October. It will be at 6:30 p.m. Central on the One Shot Network Twitch channel at twitch.tv/OneShotRPG. And I think if time permits, we might get through the remaining shrouds. ?
We'll see.
We'll see. I know. We might have a lot of thoughts about things, but that's the goal.
We're going to try.
We'll see how we do. Yeah.
Aside from that, we would love it if you checked out the C3 Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. We are slightly behind on our funding goal to get to our original $160 a month goal. And I would love to order some enamel pins to send them out to our campaign level patrons. So,
Yeah. We keep getting close, but then, we keep seesawing right around that $160 a month goal. I would love to see us get there. But if we can get there and keep going, if we can get that $200 a month goal, not only will that unlock the yearly subscriptions for our supporters at a discount, but it also means that we can afford to pay Fiona, our webmaster, a bit more every month to update the backlog of games on our site. And hopefully, 4 or 5 more campaign level backers, we could get there by the end of the year if just a small handful of listeners were to be able to chip in for that.
In addition to all of that, we'd like to thank our current patrons on every episode. Your support really does help us a great deal. So let's go ahead and do that right now.
Starting with Lieutenant DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, and Eric Bonds. Thank you all so much.
Daryl Holiday II, Shadim Cabal, and the Shyest Barbarian, we are so grateful to all of you.
Benjamin Sweeney, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown, thank you all for your continued support.
Tentacle Duck, John Adamus, and A3 Sketchpad, thank you all for believing in us.
Carlos Salazar, Erica S., and Ian Pottmeyer, thanks for helping us make the show.
Many thanks to Liam G., Brian Colm, and the Garden GM.
Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny, we're happy to have you here with us. Thank you.
Nicole Trainer, Liam Murray, and Kenning, thank you for making all of this possible.
Brian Kurtz, Mark E. Fair, and Drew Owen, thrilled to have you here with us. Thank you.
Oz, Sean Metcalf, and Robert, thank you for supporting our dreams.
And we're glad to have you here as well, Kevin Bates, Deadly Edley, and Allison Cole. Thanks for supporting.
And finally, Blue Scholar, we appreciate your support so much. Thank you.
And thank you to all of our future patrons. If you want to join this phenomenal group of individuals, please head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast and help us out. And with more assistance, we'll be able to make those website upgrades to make exploring your favorite games that much easier. And if you want to join in the discussion with our hosts, some of our guests, and a bunch of fans, head on over to our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com.
Finally, if you want to help us out in a way that doesn't cost any money at all, you can leave a rating or review for our show on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict. We read out every new 5-star review as we get them when we record these cold opens together, so yours would be next on the top of the list.
That's all we have for today's episode. Join us here next time when we start learning a new game by previous guest Pete Petrusha called Ghost in the Shell. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.